Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. This is the Doc Owen Show. This is Dr. Richard Owen. I am joined by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bocce.
Whoo, we're all in the house.
We are.
All right. We've got a very lively show for you tonight. I'm going to disseminate some information that you're really not going to want to hear, but you need to know. So we'll put it out there for you. We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DocOwenShow, and we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter in a big way. We are cranking up our blog, DocOwenShow.com, and getting better about it. Uncle Bocce is doing double duty and, kind of spearheading that effort for us. So look for lots of good things to come on that front. We are also doing 3 shows a week. This is our second week of 3 shows a week. We have a show that we put out on Monday called Saint Cities by Doc Owen Show. It is all about sanctuary cities and a good alternative, a saint city, sanctuary assembled in nature's tradition. You really ought to listen to those shows. They're really pretty interesting, and it's kind of a movement we're trying to get going, and we're using this particular platform to drive it. Our Wednesday night show is the Campus Connection, spelled with K's, for the reason that Campus Connection with a C was already taken on Facebook. So we're calling it the Campus Connection by Doc Owen Show. It is by, for, and involved with young people and the education system, let's put it that way. All the way from, kindergarten right on up. As we see issues that need to be addressed or brought to the public's interest, we do that, both good and bad. And then our normal, which is tonight, our normal Doc Owen Show, which is, we'll call it a discussion of current events. How about that?
Mm-hmm. That would
work. With a couple of very special features. And the special features go off in our traditional manner of opening up, which is our first lead-off is an inspirational note from Ms. Surefire. Emma, take it away.
Tonight's quote, as usual, comes from InspirationalDaily.com. And it's from a gentleman by the name of Leo Buscaglia. And
is that right, Bocce?
That is perfect.
Nailed it. Okay.
Uncle Bocce helped me with that. So that was good. Thank you. So Leo was also known as Dr. Love. He was an American author and motivational speaker.
I think if I had a last name like that, I'd go by. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so his quote is, "Don't brood. Get on with living and loving. You don't have forever."
Okay, boom.
That's right.
That's great.
He said it, he meant it, and it works.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Followed by Today in History at some point in time. Uncle Bocce, what you got for us?
Yes, Today in History. By the way, anybody can get this information by going to history.com.
Don't tell them that.
Why not?
Because they got to come back here to get it.
Yeah, well, come here to get what I'm telling you, but,
If you want to know more.
Exactly. If you want to know more, because I'm just going to tell you the highlights. If you want to know more, you're going to have to Google it or go to history.com.
There you go.
Okay, on this day in 1664, New Amsterdam becomes New York. Remember, we talked about that several times. And in 1974, President Ford pardons President Nixon. Now, yesterday, the United States became nicknamed Uncle Sam. And if you want to know more about that, Google it. And in 1977, President Carter, agrees to transfer the Panama Canal to Panama. Without any reparations to us. Just gave it away.
Nice guy.
Just like Obama's trying to give the internet away.
Oof, don't even go.
We won't go there.
Well, we might, but anyway. And I'll wrap it up with a quote from our friends on leadership from Crown to Grace International. This is actually from a gentleman by the name of Lao Tzu, T-Z-U, all right? And Lao said, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you are heading. Now, I gave the
That's a
quote
good one.
exactly as it was referred, but I don't really think that's who said it. That sounds like a Yogi Berra to me if I've ever heard one. Yogi was, so famous for if you come to a fork in the road, take it. Okay. And that sounds like one of those things to me. Let's, before we dive into the Uncle Bocce brief, I got one San Antonio announcement, but it's a global announcement primarily across all of our listening audiences. You need to find your local chapter of this outfit called Act for America. ACT, exclamation point actually, for America. It's Brigitte Gabrielle is the head of it. You know that name. She's all over television. Anyway, we have a local Act for America chapter. They will be meeting on Monday, September the 12th, and talking about the Influence Operation 101, Jihadists Infiltrate Black Lives Matter. It's always extremely informative. So go out there, Google, do a search, and find your local Act. Probably go to Act for America and probably list the various chapters that are out there. So I always like to give that outfit a plug because they put out some really good information with solid background.
Yeah.
Okay, Uncle Bocce, you ready for a little walk through history with us?
I certainly am.
All right, here we are with Uncle Bocce's brief.
Right. We're going to continue with our African history in the Americas. The first large shipment of slaves directly from Africa. Remember last week he talked about the first slaves really came from Europe, mostly England. Okay.
Right.
So the first actual shipment of black slaves directly from Africa to the colonies was in 1655. And it was to the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam, now New York. How appropriate for today, right? Now, I want you to remember, it was a Dutch merchant ship, and the people were from Africa. Africans, they were the immigrants into the British New World. They didn't have any choice in where they were going or what their destiny was going to be. The first Africans that arrived in Jamestown in 1619 on a Dutch trading ship were not slaves, but they weren't free either. They served their time as indentured servants until their obligations were met. So in other words, they came over here on the ship, and to pay back, they had to work.
But they knew going into it what the deal was.
Yes.
In other words, if right,
that's correct.
They had a time frame. It wasn't a we'll let you know sort of thing.
It was a specific time frame, 7 years, or until the debt was paid.
Actually, that's kind of like going to one of the military academies.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you go to a military academy, they put you through school for 4 years, and you owe them 5 years worth of service. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
Okay, now although these people were free, they live out the remainder of their lives as free men. But we're going to get more into the history of really what happened to them. Okay, now, despite the complete lack of a slave culture or tradition in Mother England, slavery gradually replaced indentured servitude as the chief means for plantation labor in the Old South. Okay, and there was a reason for that, and we'll be talking more about it. Now, talking about the Old South, Virginia became the first British colony to legally establish slavery, and that was in 1661. Maryland and the Carolinas followed very shortly after that. The only southern colony that resisted slavery was Georgia. Believe it or not, at first they did. That was in 1732.
Right in the middle of it.
King George II established Georgia. Within the next 17 years, however, the pressure from all the citizens that they just had to give in, and they repealed the law that was a ban on African slavery. That was in 1749. So all of the southern colonies were now slave colonies.
Do you think? I mean, that I would assume that was economic pressure.
Yes.
That Georgia they couldn't compete with the rest of the South because they had a high cost of labor.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. So
They were that generation's union shop in a world
In a sense,
non-union shops.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there were laws passed all over the place in all of the colonies that also condemned the children of slaves to be lifetime in chains. No northern or middle colony was without slaves. Okay? From Puritan, Massachusetts to Quaker, Pennsylvania, Africans did live in bondage. However, economics and geography did not promote the need for the slaves, so slavery became very less important in the North. So it remained.
Okay. Now think about that. Because the South was primarily an agrarian economy.
Exactly.
It was a farming for agrarian. It was a farming economy, right? And which is very labor intensive. And the North, on the other hand, was it wasn't industrialized yet, but it was just a different type of economy. It wasn't driven by
it was different. They
farming.
didn't have the large plantations,
Right,
their soil and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
So even though these laws, they were throughout the region, they recognized the existence of slavery, it was far less systematized in the North.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yep, makes sense.
One more thought. Slaves were more frequently granted freedom, and opposition to the institution was more common, especially in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was founded by the Quakers.
Say that again.
The slaves in the North,
Yeah.
okay, they were more frequently granted their freedom,
Okay.
okay, and the opposition to the institution was more common.
Okay.
And that happened especially in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
which was strongly influenced by the Quakers, and they were very, very anti-slavery.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and that's our story for tonight. Next week we'll look about the numbers of slaves in the United States, and when did slavery actually come to an end? Interesting topic. Very interesting topic. So tune in, because we're going to discuss that.
Okay. Good. Good job.
Uncle Bachi, you can reach me at UNCLE at Uncle Bachi. Oh boy.
Okay. Back up. Turn around.
Back up. It's Uncle Bachi, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com.
Okay.
Challenge me, folks.
And
I'm ready.
what you were about to give out was your Twitter handle.
Yeah, on Twitter
So
too.
who are you on Twitter?
On Twitter, I am at Uncle_Bachi.
Okay. There's
So,
an underscore.
I'll be
in
looking
between the
for
two.
you.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Uncle Bot.
Throw 140 characters at him. We are coming up on an opportunity to grab a sip of water, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are glad to have you. Before we dive into a couple of sound bites, I want to give some prep. I did not get the opportunity, or I did not take the opportunity, if you will, to watch the Commander-in-Chief Forum, as it was called last night, when the two primary presidential candidates came out one at a time and were asked questions, some of them by military personnel, etc. But the idea was to measure the two of them in terms of their qualifications to be Commander-in-Chief of the United States military, which is still considered a challenging job and a very responsible job. Albeit the last 8 years, we've got to, make up for some time. So I'm going to play, and the biggest story, if you're not aware, you should be. The biggest story to come out of the entire thing, it wasn't a debate, so there's no who won, sort of, but, who did the best job or whatever. But the biggest story to come out of the entire 1 hour was the earpiece that Hillary Clinton was wearing. Okay? She had an ear thing stuck in her ear, and the assumption is all over the net, etc., that it was a sound device and that she was just a puppet, that somebody was out there feeding her answers to the questions. That's the assumption. That's what everybody's going on, right? And there's nothing to refute that, and I don't know that the Clinton campaign has refuted it. What we have seen, however, is the earpiece that Barack Obama was wearing stuck in his ear during debate number 3 with Mitt Romney, which is why he kept his head turned looking at Romney, so that ear would be not visible to the TV cameras.
Sneaky,
All right?
sneaky.
And Hillary had it in, evidently she thought because it was kind of clear and you're not supposed to be able to see it, et cetera, but because of some people were aware that Obama had done it, Hillary has done it. So, to me, let's get into the sound bites, and then I'll kind of give you my opinion on it. So we've got 2 sound bites. We're going to do back to back. One of them's very brief. It's what appears to be the stand-up question of the evening, the hardest question, and then we'll get a review of that entire exchange that I downloaded from MSNBC of all places. So give me clip number 1, Ms. Surefire.
Secretary Clinton, how can you expect those such as myself who were and are entrusted with America's most sensitive information to have any confidence in your leadership as president when you clearly corrupted our national security?
Well, I appreciate your concern and also your experience, but let me try to...
I want to pause it is, I noticed when I was listening to her response that she thanked him for his question, right? Or his concern. Thanked him for his concern and for his experience, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I get the opportunity, we get the opportunity, and our audience probably gets the opportunity on a very regular basis to shake the hand of our military personnel. And what do you say?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
She never said it. She said thank you for your concern and thank you for your experience. She can't even bring herself to say thank you for your service.
Wow.
It's the little things you got to pay attention to. Finish the clip, please.
make the distinctions that I think are important for me to answer your question. First, as I said to Matt, you know and I know, classified material is designated, it is marked, there is a header so that there is no dispute at all that what is being communicated to or from someone who has that access is marked classified. And what we have here is the use of an unclassified system by hundreds of people in our government to send information that was not marked. There were no headers. There was no statement, top secret, secret, or you know and I know. Classified material is designated. It is marked. There is a header so that there is no dispute at all.
If you listen to that soundbite closely, and you recognize that she has an earpiece, what she's doing is she's talking, she's stalling as she's listening to her instructions. Okay? She's stalling as she is listening to what she's going to say. It's an old sales trick. While you're thinking, salesmen are trained to say, let me see if I understand your question correctly. And you give the question back to them. And all that time, your mind is going through what your response is going to be. Mm-hmm. All right?
I'll have to remember that trick.
And it takes a little practice, but it can be done. All right? And then she talks about using a server that hundreds of people used throughout the government. In other words, you can't blame me because it's not just me. Okay, lock all 100 of them up.
Exactly.
You know, you want to throw some of your friends under the bus? Give me names and numbers, please.
Deflect from the issue.
That's just my input. Mm-hmm. So now you understand probably why I didn't watch the Commander-in-Chief Forum. All right, second clip, please, and I'll stay out of it.
Live, meanwhile, at last night's Commander-in-Chief Forum here in New York City, veterans and active military personnel had the chance to hear from the nominees and also to pose questions directly to them.
I was against the war in Iraq because I said it's going to totally destabilize the Middle East, which it has. It has absolutely been a disastrous war. And by the way, perhaps almost as bad was the way Barack Obama got out. That was a disaster.
And joining me now are two of the veterans who asked questions last night. Phil Cly asked a question of Donald Trump. John Lester asked a question of Hillary Clinton. So I think the best way to do this is let's play each one of the exchanges, and then let's ask you about what you wanted to achieve with the question and what you thought you achieved. So, John, you had a chance to pose a question to Hillary Clinton. Let's take a look at it.
Secretary Clinton, how can you expect those, such as myself, who were and are entrusted with America's most sensitive information, to have any confidence in your leadership as president when you clearly corrupted our national security?
I communicated about classified material on a wholly separate system. I took it very seriously. So I did exactly what I should have done, and I take it very seriously. Always have, always will.
All right, so John, now you were in the Air Force. You were Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm back in the early '90s. That's your military background. What inspired the question first last night? Let me ask you that.
Well, actually, for what it's worth, I was a flight officer in the Navy. I'd started out in the Air Force.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Jumped over, but no.
My dad was a Navy man. I should have.
No. What inspired the question? In my career, we handled an awful lot of very sensitive information, and as an example, I worked for my squadron commander had. On deployment, we had an incident where a cryptographic tape, we handled top secret communications materials. It had been dropped in what's called a secure compartmentalized information facility, a SCIF is what we essentially call it. That tape set off a 3-day no-sleep event where his career was in jeopardy for one tape in a secure facility. So when you compare what we've seen with some of the other individuals lately who have done things that are somewhat innocuous and are facing up to a year of imprisonment for things that are far less than somebody at the position of the Secretary of State who is handling information at the level that she's handling, I guarantee you, was far more sensitive than the things that I looked at.
You've seen in your professional life, you've seen in your military career examples that inspired the
That's
question.
Right.
What did you make of the answer she gave?
Well, the answer, I hate to say this, but essentially I thought it was very disingenuous. The fact that she stood on, and again, we've seen several explanations of her handling of materials in the past. This is, for whatever it's worth, a new twist. The fact is, the materials, when you are reading a piece of information, typically they are classified. I do agree with her in that sense. But at the same time, you can think of it from two perspectives. The first perspective is that when you are transmitting information, you cannot tell me that understanding the content of that information has implications.
And that in itself requires us to be stewards, essentially not making that information available if we think it's sensitive, regardless of its classification. And in her position, I guarantee she was exposed to information and presented information, provided information that may have not been marked, but was clearly sensitive to our national security. So whether when you stand up and you say, I didn't transmit something or I didn't communicate something that didn't have that, not understanding that, it just doesn't make sense, doesn't add up. I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's the question to Hillary Clinton. Now, you posed a question, Phil, to Donald Trump. Now, you're an Iraq veteran, you're a Marine, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's play your question and then see what you thought of it. This was your question to Donald Trump.
Assuming we do defeat ISIS, what next? What is your plan for the region to ensure that a group like them doesn't just come back?
I've always said, shouldn't be there, but if we're going to get out, take the oil. If we would have taken the oil, you wouldn't have ISIS, because ISIS formed with the power and the wealth of that oil.
Take the oil. He talked about that last night. What did you make of it?
It's hard to take seriously. The answer that he gave didn't suggest that he spent a lot of time seriously thinking about that. Also, of course, prior to the war, he's on record supporting it. So that was, sort of a flat-out lie. But I think more troubling, if we were to take him at his word, take him seriously, that we were actually going to send U.S. troops to, pillage the oil of Iraq, that would be a catastrophe for the United States. It would shatter our alliances. It would unite much of the world against us. It would increase terrorism. I think it's a disturbing answer, and you hope he mentioned that he hasn't had so much time to study up on military policy because he has a lot of hats. He's doing a lot of things. You certainly hope that somebody who's potentially going to be the commander-in-chief will spend a little bit more time thinking seriously about the complex nature of the region and what we need to do to ensure that we're not wasting American lives right now. Because, I think about it, there's a 17-year-old kid right now who's thinking about joining the Marine Corps. And the wrong decision made by the commander-in-chief could lead that kid to be maimed or killed. And I would not bet that kid's life on the kind of vague answers that he gave last night.
Okay, so neither one very happy with the answers they got last night, but the questions were great, and I'm glad you guys asked them, and I thought it was a very it was the best part of the forum, was hearing from voices like yours in that audience last night. But Phil Cly, John Lester, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with...
Okay, I gave them the proper credit. We don't need to hear the credit from them as well. I got to tell you something that really bothers me, and it bothers me on a consistent basis, and it was that young man, the second questioner, that used the term kid every third word when he was talking about a young man or a young woman. Kids are baby goats, period. Human beings are children or young people or a young boy or a young man or whatever, but they are not kids. It is demeaning, and it needs to be done away with in reference to our young people. All right? And so every time I get the opportunity to step up on that soapbox, I do. It's just one of my numerous little idiosyncrasies. So let's, before we chat about that, we're coming up on about 30 minutes. Let's take another little 1 minute break for a sip of water and get our attitude right, and we'll come back and chat the rest of the show out. How's that? Ms. Surefire, take it away.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 877-212-5898. Again, 877-212-5898. That's 877-212-5898. 877-212-5898.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. I was kind of off mic there for just a second, still ranting about the use of the word kid. My bad. Let's talk about the forum thing for just a little bit longer in terms of the earpiece and the puppeteering that's going on. And, I mean, how do you feel about that, Bocce? Does that give you any confidence in the system whatsoever?
Absolutely not. Neither one of them did.
Okay.
With their answers.
Okay.
You know.
That's kind of the general take.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were listening to it. What's your first impression or your impression of what their answers were like? The questions were really pretty good.
The questions were excellent. Yes, I love the questions.
Yeah, I think just the overall thing of having that is just, I don't know.
It's a show.
Yeah,
it's a dog and pony show.
I don't see really any point in it. That's just the whole general feeling I have about it.
It was in order to sell some TV time.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the ensuing conversation, be it on Twitter or Facebook or social media or whatever, about the earpiece and about the remote control aspect that went on. Mm-hmm. So, and I have a feeling, I was thinking about this, I have a feeling that there was nothing made of Obama using one in debate number 3. And I just think if I'm on stage with somebody and I'm paying attention, I'm going to notice. And the Republican candidate, Mitt Romney, was just flat too much of a gentleman to say anything about it, right? Mm-hmm. He did not have the sense of going for the jugular.
That's right.
But it also helps explain why he might have backed off during debate number 3, because he knew it was a rigged game. I'm just saying, if you hindsight's 20/20, and I can see Mr. Romney, the character of the type of character, high integrity that he really is. Just saying, I'm not gonna play this way. I'm not gonna go down that path. And it hurt him. It hurt him substantially.
It sure did.
Yeah.
Okay. I started off the show by saying I'm going to give you some news that you probably don't want to hear, but you need to know. All right? So this will head us down the area of we need to think about this. The headline to the article is the number one reason why America will be conquered. All right? And you're thinking the demise of the military over the last 8 years, the economy, all the money we owe to China, the aggressiveness of Putin. That's what's going through your brain, right?
That's right.
Well, that's the wrong answer.
I know.
America was once the intellectual envy of the world. At one time, we produced the best innovators and subsequent inventions on the planet. This is no longer the case. How dire is America's intellectual deficit? America has the lowest IQ among modern nations.
Is that right?
That's sad.
Are you ready for that?
That's sad.
I'm not ready for that.
Listen to these numbers. It starts right at the top of the intelligence pyramid, namely the intelligence quotient, or IQ. The U.S. scores the lowest in national average IQ among the developed countries of the world, at a national average score of 9.8.
Really?
Double digit. Really. That is our national average IQ.
Wow, that's hard to believe.
No, well, but does it help explain why you've had an Obama administration for 4 years?
Oh,
sure. For 8 years?
Sure.
And you've got Hillary Clinton at the top of the ticket? operating by remote control with an earpiece.
Yeah.
That nobody seems to care. I'm going to keep drumming these in because I want everybody to get it. The diminishing intellectual abilities of the country coalesce each day inside of each of our public schools. In other words, we're dumbing them down.
Amen.
And with an average IQ of 98, I'm not sure everybody would have understood what that sentence meant. Country coalesces each day. Teachers frequently complain that today in America, it has become cool to be a fool. We now honor stupidity as if it is a virtue, as evidenced by, and it gives a video clip. And then I want to give you something from President Bill Clinton's mentor, a fellow by the name of Carroll Quigley, who was a professor of history at Georgetown University and the author of a 1966 book called Tragedy and Hope, stated that, listen to this very carefully, the argument that the two parties should represent opposed ideals and policies, one perhaps of the right and the other of the left, is a foolish idea acceptable only to academic thinkers. Instead, the two parties should be almost identical, so that the American people can, quote, throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy.
How absurd.
But it's what's happening. That's what's been happening. This was written in 1966. Then it should be possible to replace it every 4 years, if necessary, by the other party, which will be none of these things, but will still pursue with new vigor approximately the same basic policies. So you wonder why there's been no Republican stoppage of the Obama administration's onslaught. Right?
They're complicit.
And the implication is that Americans are too stupid to see through the lies and deception of the globalists is correct. Here are some more examples. All right? The general stupidity of Americans. 50% of high school seniors think Sodom and Gomorrah were married.
Oh, gee.
55% of the U.S. population does not know that the sun is a star.
Wow.
25% believe we won our independence from a country other than Great Britain. You want to know why we do the history? 29% couldn't name the vice president. 73% couldn't correctly say why we fought the Cold War.
Oh, goodness.
44% were unable to define the Bill of Rights. And 6% couldn't even circle Independence Day on a calendar. Okay?
Wow.
Hold on, I'm not through with you yet. This is political stupidity. That was just general stupidity. This is their level of knowledge, average John Q. American, about politics. 23% can identify the president of the first president of the United States. 23% know who George Washington was.
23% know.
Yeah. All right. So if you know who the first president was, you're freaking brilliant.
Wow.
It gets better. 10% know how many justices sit on the Supreme Court. 14% know who wrote the Declaration of Independence. 27% can correctly identify the two houses of the U.S. Congress.
Give me a break.
22% of Americans could name all 5 Simpson family members, compared with just 1 in 1,000 people who could name all 5 First Amendment freedoms. Okay, did you get that? 22% could name the 5 Simpsons. I can't even say the Simpsons. And 1 in 1,000 could name all 5 First Amendment rights. I'll let you up after that one. Can you imagine? So, is it any wonder that I constantly talk about how things are being dumbed down in order to make them palatable, so we don't offend anyone, so everybody gets a ribbon, so everybody passes. They collect an average, nationwide average IQ of 9.8. I've never heard such a thing.
No, neither have I.
And it's not. You don't get an IQ. You're not born with a big IQ. Okay, you're not. I mean, you're born with the ability to learn. You're born with the ability to pay attention, and you're born with the ability to absorb and understand and learn from your parents, learn from your school, learn from your church, learn from your peers, but learn, absorb things, right?
Absolutely.
And we don't know. We really don't know what that limit is. I mean, it's expansive. I mean, the percentage of our brain that we use on a day-to-day basis is I'm just held thumb and finger up is tiny, teensy.
It is.
Right?
It is.
We don't stress ourselves at all. Right?
That's correct. I have a story to tell about that. It's personal. Do we have time?
I don't know. Is it longer than 20 minutes?
No.
Go for it. Story me.
Okay.
Story all of us.
Here's the deal.
Go ahead. And you're on the
Talking
air. You're
about
on the air, you know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Mike sound right? Okay.
Yeah. This is a personal story.
Good.
One of my granddaughters,
Yeah.
who is now 11 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. She is an adopted child.
Okay.
Beautiful, wonderful, intelligent, knows more than I think anybody. Her sister from the same mom and dad, you put those two together, same genes, but yet the nurturing and the upbringing that my daughter and son-in-law have brought to her and what her sister has lived through. All I'm saying is that environment does make a difference for a child.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh,
so
yeah.
if we dumb down the environment
yeah.
in schools, they're going to go lower.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I'll give you a bit of a personal, since you brought it up.
Yeah.
My mother was a bit of a firebrand, and I've talked about it on the air before. Other my high school buddies used to like to borrow my mother. If they got into a tangle with a teacher, they'd rather be represented by my mother than anybody else. Mom didn't put up with a lot of stuff. Let's just say it that way. When I was growing up, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, early on, I used to act out in class. I was known as a bit of a smart aleck, which some of that I've not grown out of at all.
Yeah, I was going to say it hasn't changed.
But it was really bad, and it was disruptive in the class, et cetera, et cetera. So I would get called down, and every once in a while, my mother would be called into school because that was supposed to be the ultimate of getting me in trouble, right? And my mother's response was, "You need to challenge him. You're being too easy. He gets bored, he acts out. It's not his fault. It's your fault."
There you go.
And actually, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, I'm saying that to the teachers, to the institution, to, exactly what you're saying. We must challenge them. We can't simply accept, we must challenge them. They have to understand that competition is real world. It is real life. And,
I can kind of resonate with your story because back in my day, they didn't have too much recognition of children, at different levels.
Right.
So, like with me, I went to private school, and they had to actually get an outside resource to find out those individuals, which, believe it or not, I was one of those, and they started the gifted and talented programs at the private school.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. If they don't take the extra effort, then there goes the child.
There goes the child.
Yeah.
Literally, there goes the child.
I know.
And there goes, and if there goes the child, there goes the system, there goes the country with an average IQ of 98.
Absolutely.
Okay. enough
So-
of that. But I wanted. I mean, that's not really current events, but I wanted the audience
It's
to know.
important.
I think it's extremely important
Yeah.
as we vote for the president of the United States, et cetera, et cetera. You just can't settle for the nonsense that's going on. And like Mr. Trump or not, I will tell you this: he is challenging. He's challenging us. He's challenging this country, and he's challenging the people in this country to be better citizens in his own inimitable way.
Yep.
That's a word I love, and I have no idea how to spell it. I've never written it in my life.
You said it nice.
I know I can say it, but
Nicely.
I can't say it. Good job, Bati. Okay, so here's a headline, and it's probably all I'm going to read to you, because to me, there are things in life that are just intuitively obvious. The Clinton team may be guilty of obstruction of justice.
Duh.
I mean, I bet that guy got paid to write that article. Okay. May be guilty of obstruction of justice. Hoo-yah. Did you know, I know you know that Donald Trump went down to meet with the Mexican president, right? What's his name? Peña Nieto, right? Did you know, that's not right?
No.
Okay.
I think,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Did you know that Hillary Clinton was also invited and refused to go?
I did hear that in passing. Yeah.
What were you passing?
A
stop sign?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The extended invitations to both major party presidential candidates, but blah, blah, blah. No, said former Secretary of State Clinton, she will not accept Peña Nieto's invitation to meet before November's presidential election. Clinton made the statement during an interview with ABC's blah, blah, blah. She called the trip of Trump unfortunate.
Of course. She's
She won't even meet with the U.S. press, much less go all the way to Mexico.
Right.
I don't think she could make the trip,
Yeah.
physically make the trip. Okay, hold on a second. Don't go anywhere. This is what I want you to hear. The title of it is Chicago's Collapse Has Begun.
Who finally? What brilliant man has finally come to that conclusion?
I don't know that it was a man or a woman, but it was
Man or
published on
woman.
the American Thinker.
The American Thinker.
Okay.
Okay.
I think this is the article you sent me.
It very well may be. It's starting to sink in here.
The city of Detroit, now famous as an economic disaster, began its decline when it lost jobs. Okay? This was accompanied by a loss of population, a rapid rise in poverty, increasing dependence on federal entitlement programs, and an unstoppable downward economic spiral. That's Detroit.
That's Detroit, but I take issue with that.
Okay? It's
Okay,
your way.
those things are probably true, but it doesn't answer the question why.
I'm going to.
Okay, good.
I'm not going to, but I'm going to read to you
Sure.
from the article.
Sure,
that does.
go ahead.
Puerto Rico is now undergoing an economic collapse sparked not by population loss,
Right.
but by excessive government spending. All right? Chicago is in the same situation. All right. Well, it doesn't answer that for Detroit. I take it back. It talks about Chicago. So why do you think Detroit, it wasn't a loss of jobs? Why do you think it was?
It was because of the progressives dumbing down and trying to control everything.
Okay.
It's the progressives. It's their policies that caused the economic loss, that caused people to leave. Detroit was what? One of the most brightest cities in America. It was the manufacturing center.
Not
And
in
look
America,
at it.
in the world.
Yeah, in the world. And look
Right.
at it now.
Right.
All because of policy.
They have 10,000. Is it in Detroit where former President Clinton said we should put the Muslim refugees because there are 10,000 very sound vacant homes in Detroit that they could occupy.
I think it was Detroit.
It was
yeah.
Detroit he was talking about putting
I
it
think
right.
so.
So we're going to rebuild Detroit by
into a mecca.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
Good job. I like it. It's contagious. Chicago is technically bankrupt. Its expenditures have exceeded its receipts for about 10 years. All big Rust Belt cities in the Midwest, East and Northeast have been losing population since 1950. Okay? Detroit's population has dropped from 1.85 million to 800,000. 1 million people have moved out. All right? And what it talks about is, the reason that they raise taxes in order to raise revenue.
Right.
And what happens when you start raising taxes in a major metropolitan area? People leave.
Yeah.
Well, they leave. They either leave or they go on the dole. They have to get government support. They have to get food stamps. They have to get all sorts of federal subsidy programs to be able to subsist in that environment, right? So you're absolutely right about the progressives. And there were numbers that we were quoting about a year ago on the show about the difference between Republican-run areas. I'm just going to call them areas. But the challenge today is that part of the Democrat strategy was to become the mayor of all of the major metropolitan areas in the United States.
Exactly.
And they have done a very good job with that strategy, which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
Because then they take that major metropolitan area and drive it into the ground, like they've done with Detroit and Chicago, and it just goes, or it's just going around the country.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
And our nice little town here is basically no exception. Our current mayor has slowed the process, but it still exists. We still have to fight Agenda 21 issues. We have to fight the global, the New World. We have to fight all of these things just like every other major city does.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how do we fix it? We got 2 minutes to fix it.
Well, I'll tell you, we've tried electing people to our federal government who we thought were going to do the job. Sorry, folks, that's not working.
Well, get closer to home. Get closer to home.
San Antonio?
No, not just San Antonio. I would submit to you the way we fix it is to put constitutionally Christian conservatives on the school board. We put constitutionally, and we grow those people into city council members. And then we grow one of those city council members into the mayor's office. And then we graduate the mayor out to the county offices, right?
Right.
But that's exactly what the Democrats have been doing to us for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
All right? They started with, and it works.
One other possibility?
Yes, sir.
If we could increase increase our spending in a sense, or encouragement of homeschooling.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. That's got to be part.
Well, I completely agree with you, but the reason that's a solution is because not everybody can afford private school, and we got to get these children out of the
public schools.
The public schools. That's less prevalent in Texas. It is still, but it is prevalent in Texas major metropolitan areas. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, boom. All right? But other than that, it's not that. It's only prevalent, but in the rest of the country, it is rampant. That's why on a nationwide basis, we've got an average IQ of 98. I mean, that's to me, no pun intended. That is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I just was not ready for that number. I've never heard of anything below 3 digits.
Nope.
And that's an average. That means that I'll guarantee you, we've got voters that are in the 70s. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care Pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.